So today on the Style Stories podcast, I have got the wonderful Roz Morris, who is an ex-journalist and now a media trainer. She's joining me. She actually came on the very early days of the Style Stories podcast. So I'm going to tell you a bit about that in a minute. So welcome, Roz. Thank you for coming on the new season.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much for asking me.
You are a media expert. You've studied history at Oxford University, and history is one of my definitely my pleasures. I love history. And then you had a really long career in broadcasting, first in TV and later on in radio. And now you are the managing director since 1994 of TV News London. But importantly, you've recently written a book
Oh,
called The Visual Revolution Guidebook. So I actually get a mention in this book, which I'm really flattered about, a case study about this very podcast, the Style Stories podcast. And the reason you wrote this book is because things have changed and we're all kind of broadcasters now in a sense. Many of us have to step up on stages. We have to step in front of a camera. We are now in more of a visual world. So I just wanted to really talk about that because what I do is obviously I'm in the business of non-verbal communication, but I help people to communicate through what they wear. And I explore that kind of communication side of things a lot here on the Style Stories podcast. So I just wanted you to just give us a bit of background about writing the book, why now, and a bit more history about the book.
well, actually, it all started. As you say, I sort of live and breathe the media and interviews and what people look like and so on. And I was a TV presenter and a reporter for some years. I started off in text journalism. I was a reporter on The Guardian and The Observer. And then I went to the BBC as a reporter. And I also reported for and presented for ITV. And then I set up the media training company and discovered I really loved doing that. I love helping people to do their interviews better because it's perfectly possible for someone to go on the radio or go on the TV, go on a podcast like this. They won't do badly, but they should do a lot better once they know what's really going on and how to plan for it and how to communicate clearly. I mean, that's the important point. The interesting thing is that about 15 years ago, I think it was, I'd started noticing that TV skills were sort of seeping into business. And it wasn't just videos. Obviously, videos became very important with pop videos in the 80s. And then those got into business. And you can't launch a car or a new product, a big product, without having a big AV production and lots of video stuff and so on. So we know that. But then I started noticing that politicians and top business people were using autocue or teleprompter, as it's known, at conferences to read their speeches. Now, so they'd escaped from the TV studios because they never used to be used outside TV. For reading the news, you have the words going down in front of you. Anyway, so that got into business. And then people started doing more videos themselves once the smartphone revolution got going. And that started in the year 2000. And everyone now can anyone can make a video if they want to. It's quite startling, the difference, because it used to be that all the technology belonged to the TV and so on. So I noticed this, and then of course I thought about writing a book, and then we had the COVID thing in 2020, where of course suddenly it all speeded up like mad, because previously, I think with COVID, I did about a handful in 5 years, a handful of media training courses online on Skype. Remember Skype?
Yeah, yeah.
And they were all for people abroad. Nobody here in UK, because obviously you didn't do that then. And then suddenly we got to COVID and we're all talking to people in the UK as well as abroad, but in the UK on Zoom. And it all sort of started off on Zoom, didn't it? And then Teams sort of caught up and then Google sort of caught up. But basically it all started off on Zoom. And I just couldn't believe it. I thought, why are these people so badly lit? Why are they sitting in the wrong part of the screen? Why are some of them way down here or way up there or too close? Why have they got the up the nose shot that you get from having your iPad in front of you and the thing goes up to the nose, the shot goes up the nose to the ceiling? I thought to myself, can't they see that this looks very unprofessional? And so I brought all this together in a book. And that's the Visual Revolution Guidebook. And when I was looking for an example of someone who does their own podcast, because I knew you anyway, and I thought, oh, I'll ring Lisa.
Yeah, I take because you came on my podcast when I just started it way back. I mean, I don't even know how long ago it was now, but we had a chat, didn't we, in the Institute
Yeah.
of Directors. And back in those days when I started my podcast, it was very different to now because you could hear coffee cups clattering in the background, all of that. But it didn't matter because the point is I just got going. And that's what you talk about in your guidebook is the fact that, try not to, basically you should hone things obviously and try to improve things, but just get going because we are now in a visual economy, like you say. And the biggest thing that has changed is the fact that people have iPhones and normal Joe can now be on telly and can become famous through having a YouTube channel or whatever else, and all this has happened. But like you say, we need to get in front of the camera a lot more. So, people who on television, I've seen terrible reports, like professional people on the BBC, on a news at 10 or whatever, doing a report about something really serious, and they're in darkness, or like you say, or their heads like off the screen like this. And, it pays to just get on top and learn a bit about how you can come across more professionally.
I mean, the thing is that I say, as you say, that I say we're all broadcasters now, because it used to be that only a select small number of skilled people could be broadcasters. But now the technology is available to everybody. But you're not just the broadcaster. I mean, sitting here, I could read the news. I'm wearing the classic sort of TV jacket and top, which is what you should wear. Really, I think everyone should wear this sort of thing if they want to look professional. But the point is, it's not just being the broadcaster. You and me sitting here, you and I, we are also the producer and the director.
Yeah, yeah.
Make ourselves look good, and we have to direct it. We have to have, I mean, I've got a ring light. I'm sure you have too. And without that, things can look odd. People don't understand. The other thing that drives me nuts is the people who sit by a window
Yeah, well,
where the light goes up and down. I mean, there's very little steady light in this country. And also, if you sit with the window at one side, you get that zebra effect of
yes, you
half
can.
the face light lit and half in darkness. And there's all sorts of basic stuff like that some people still don't know. I mean, some companies are actually giving people proper instruction on this is what you look like. They give them a professional background with the company logo. Others don't do anything. And people, this is the world we live in. I mean, it's quite interesting. I quote in the book that Mark Zuckerberg said in 2018 at the mobile conference in Barcelona, he said, the future is video. Everyone is going to communicate on video. And in 2018, people thought, oh, yeah, a bit of that, Well, that's happening now. We're communicating on video all the time. I mean, something goes wrong with your something at home, like your washing machine, you look it up and find a video where someone says, oh, this happened to me and this is what you do, with anything. I mean, so we are all really, really using video, and we need to know how to do it properly.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just about evolving. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, if you want to be, successful in your work, all of that kind of thing, then it pays to learn a bit about how you can look professional on screen. And I know that, these people that I've seen interviewed on the news at 10 or whatever it was that looked terrible, it's not their skill set to, be a presenter. But like we're saying, try to learn a bit about how to do it and how to look professional on camera. So have you got some top tips to give people about what they can actually do to look good when they're presenting on camera for work or interviews?
It's not just for media interviews. I mean, first of all, just dealing with the media interviews, the majority of media interviews, if you watch some news and listen to the radio, the majority of those interviews are done like this, talking to the computer. Now, people don't go into the studio anymore, hardly ever. They're actually sitting at home or in their office and talking to the camera. So you've got to know how to do this, and you've got to know how to do it for media interviews, for job interviews, for webinars. If you're doing a major presentation, doing a simple presentation, you need to know how to do it. Oh, and the other part of the visual revolution is that, of course, you've got things like Canva and Unsplash and all these sort of sites where you can get images and you can get a lot free, and the standards for presentations have gone up.
Yeah.
with TED Talks, the standards for doing a presentation just talking at a conference, that's gone up because everyone thinks everyone should be like a TED Talk when people have spent 6 months practicing their talk to make it really good for the TED Talk. I mean, the standards are so much higher, and yet some people don't seem to realize that. And I think what they need to do is they need to think about what are the things that, what do I want to look like and how do I do it? You know, you've got to be in the middle of the screen. You've got to be with your head towards the top of the screen, but not right at the top of the screen. But
Mm.
you've got to be in the center, and you mustn't be too low. And your eye line is very important. You have to look at the camera.
Yes, so my laptop today is up on a like I've got a platform. So I know I've seen people that have their laptop down and they're sort of looking down, that like you're saying, up the nose kind of shot as well. But what about what to wear as well? Like you're wearing a block colour, which is something that I always recommend. What things should people avoid on camera as well?
Oh, well, you should avoid anything really, anything asymmetrical. When there was that fashion for the one shoulder thing, it just doesn't work on screen, whether it's TV or video or anything or job interview. It just doesn't work. The thing about being in the middle is that we expect the picture to be symmetrical. The face
Yeah.
has got two eyes, you know, and we've got two hands. We expect things to be symmetrical. So that's why you've got to be like that. So don't wear anything that is off center.
Right.
Okay. Don't wear anything with patterns that are too big or too small. Tiny little patterns can strobe on cameras. You can get when men used to wear ties, they don't so much now, but when they did and they were on TV, if they had a tie with tiny little dots or tiny little stripes, it would sort of vibrate.
Yeah,
The
it's
camera can't cope with the tiny color changes. Oh, and that's another thing. Never wear tweed.
right, because with that strobe as well, that
Yeah,
strobes the camera. And black is to be avoided.
well, yes, because it sucks all the colour in. You know,
Yeah,
white reflects all the colour, and that can be difficult as well. But the black just can suck all the colour in, can suck the colour out of your face. And it just, if you have got a black jacket on, you need to have a white top. You're not a black top or a pink top or whatever you like, but something that will give you a bit of colour. I mean, it is really quite important. I mean, both for men and for women, a lot of this stuff, but for women also, you need to wear a bit of lipstick because otherwise you fade away.
you fade into the
You
background.
need to wear makeup and look, you know, as though you've made an effort.
I did see someone actually just this week as well who just won this big kind of award, and they were wearing a black blazer with a black polo neck up to there, literally, and it was on a black background. It just looked like they were floating face.
Yes. Well, I call that, you know, Marcel Marceau. Do you remember him, the mime artist?
Yes, yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness, mime thing. Yeah.
No, it doesn't do any. And if you wear a black polo top type thing,
It was that. It was like the Anne Boleyn
no
effect.
matter what you're colouring, it's going to look weird. And
Yeah,
the whole point about this is it's perfectly possible to be wearing something that is slightly wrong. I mean, it isn't plain. I just recommend plain stuff. If you what the reason why this matters is because when we see people on screen, whether it's in an interview or a presentation or a media interview, we have to look at them and think, they look professional. I'll listen to them all in like a couple of seconds. If we're still trying to decode what they're wearing after 3 or 4 seconds, we're not listening to anything they're saying.
100%. I talk about this a lot on this podcast because you get it's something like a seventh of a second. It's a human thing. We just make up, we suddenly will look at someone and think to ourselves instantly, can I trust this person? Do they seem professional? Do I believe what they're saying?
Yes.
This is visual. It's a human condition. It's how we've
Can't
stayed
help
safe.
it, you know, so you just have to live with it. And the other thing is that some of the people that you've mentioned, it's really difficult at night. A lot of the people who look terrible have lit themselves really badly at night. And I do presentations about this, and I've got one slide because I capture things off the TV all the time. And I've got one of a prominent Scottish politician, and she's sitting in well, it looks like a shed. I
Yeah.
mean, she must have been somewhere. It was late at night, and I mean, but she's just got sort of wood behind her and a greenish light. I mean, it is just terrible. She was a really senior person. It wasn't Nicola Sturgeon, but another senior
Yeah, but just
politician.
hadn't been told by the media. A lot of people now they'll have media training. I mean, I was thinking, I'm sure everyone remembers this during lockdown. Remember, there was the guy that was on the news. I can't remember what he was presenting, but then his child came into the room
Oh, yes, that was just before lockdown, actually.
just
Yeah.
before lockdown, and then another
Yeah.
child came in with a little like push thing, and he was sort of trying to push the child out of the view of the camera, but it was actually very endearing. It wasn't like everyone thought, oh, what a loser.
Oh, that was just before lockdown, actually. He was doing an interview from Seoul in South Korea. He's a professor of politics. He's
That's it.
senior, and he was doing an interview about something really serious in South Korean politics. And suddenly this little girl comes bounding in. And I mean, you couldn't have scripted it better. The timing, the comic timing is fun. But then the little one comes in a stroller thing, you know.
Yes, the wife crawled in, didn't
The
she?
wife comes in and grabs them. I know. It's just really, really funny. Actually, I do say to people, if you want to, if you're having a bad day and you want to cheer up, just watch The Professor. It's still there. You know,
I would,
it does make you laugh. And the other one that's really good was the guy where you've got to be careful. Another thing, you've got to be careful of the technical stuff. There was the man who was a lawyer, and he was in the States, and he went onto an online court case, and he was a cat
I remember that. Yes.
because he had played about and made himself into a cat. And you can still see that one. And he says, "I assure you, sir, I am not a cat." It's just
Do
funny.
you know what? If something goes wrong like that, I think you've got to own it.
The thing is, we're a bit less, to start with, people had kids coming in and all sorts of stuff. We're a bit less tolerant of that now. And in a meeting among colleagues, you know, but if it happens all the time, we start to think it's a bit much, you know. And I think the other thing is, if you're doing an important presentation, you can't have that happening. I mean, there is one on the BBC website of an MP who is talking in an interview, and his cat jumps up and walks across the computer. And then he puts it down and then it walks back because he's ignoring it.
No, because he can't. I actually, do you know what? I actually, right at this moment, my cat is here. I don't know if you've heard him sharpening his claws next to me. I'm very close to having to put him outside the room. I don't know. He normally doesn't come in, so I hope I'm not showing myself to be unprofessional on camera here.
Well, I do say, there's a list of things you have to put, and you have to have the room to yourself.
Yeah,
Have
yeah,
to put a note on the door, and it's
yeah.
no cats, no dogs, no parrots, no babies, no little people, just not allowed. You just, and no teenagers. I mean, there was a politician somewhere in the Pacific, I think it was New Zealand, and her teenager came in. She was doing an interview, and her teenager came in with a funny shaped carrot with a particular, you can guess, and thinking it was really funny. And there was nothing wrong with it, but it didn't really work with her interview.
No, my goodness. But have you got any tips? This is what I really wanted to ask you today, because I'm actually all right on camera. Weirdly, I can go on a video like this today and I have no nerves whatsoever. But if you put me in a room standing in front of actual real life people looking at me in real life, that's when I get really nervous.
Well, I mean, the thing is that it always comes out in surveys. What are people most scared of? And it's usually, spiders, snakes, and then public speaking.
Oh my goodness. I mean,
All there.
yeah, I don't know what I mean. I think it's all the eyes looking at me. I'm not sure. It's something that it just feels so different. So how could I calm myself down if I start to feel a bit scared? Have you got any tips about what
Well,
I
of
can
course,
do?
the first thing is with any presentation, you have to have prepared it.
Yeah.
Never wing it. There might be parts where you have to wing it, but not the whole thing. Never. It doesn't work. I remember Boris Johnson and his Peppa Pig speech to the Senate.
Oh, I still cringe when I think of.
Horrible, I mean, and he was just winging it. You could tell he hadn't, and that was anyway. Never mind. But I mean, the point being that your biggest asset is the fact that you know what you're doing.
Right. Yeah.
If you arrive and never be late, because that's the other thing. If you arrive late for something or just in time, you won't be on top of things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I
Always
do
learning.
practice. I do practice. I know I also feel like I know so much about my work that I could wing it. If someone threw a curveball question to me.
No, quite. But the actual presentation,
Yeah,
you really need to, and the talking, you really need to have a structure and have worked out what you want to say and stick to it. And that's really important. I mean, this is all in my book. I've
yeah.
got the book now, the Visual Revolution Guidebook. You can
Wow.
see pink. Pink is a thing of mine. Yes.
I've got my version here. So you're wearing pink today. So pink is a thing of yours. How I've got to ask because it always comes back to fashion and what you wear on the podcast. I mean, it's about communication. Like I said at the beginning, what you wear is non-verbal communication. So how has like through your career, you've had a long career in broadcasting. So you've been on TV. I've read the chapter in here as well about all the stuff you had to cart around when you were, doing news reports and stuff. I mean, it's so much slicker now. I mean, you had
Amazing.
cameraman, the car, the this, the that, everything. But also probably quite a male-dominated world as well. How has your style evolved, and have you always been kind of really conscious of what you're wearing, or did it not matter? Or what's your style story really throughout your career?
I have got a picture somewhere when I first started. Well, I've been a news reporter for a couple of years, and there's a picture of me standing outside Swan Hunter shipyard doing a report. I mean, this is when I was a text reporter, when I was a newspaper reporter. But one of the photographers took a picture of me, and I was standing there as a serious reporter for The Guardian, and I'm wearing a long sort of jacket coat and a frilly blouse with. This is the first time that those long sort of cuffs were in,
Yeah,
frilly cuffs.
statement sleeves.
And there I am. And I looked at it a few years later. I thought, oh, yeah, I look like a serious reporter. I just was wearing something fashionable. It was so funny. I mean, but you got no guidance at all, you know. But no guidance on anything much, really. It was all sink or swim. But when I started doing the TV news, then I did the radio reporting, and then I did the
Yeah,
TV news reporting. So I did print, radio, TV, which is a very good way to do it because you gradually, building up to the TV stuff. But when I started doing the TV stuff, I realized that it really does matter, and I really do need to wear it. I do think newsreaders should wear jackets, men and women. I can't believe I saw last summer, it was very, very hot, and there was a BBC London presenter, and she's just wearing a vest top to present the news.
yeah.
Wouldn't let a man do that. A man wouldn't wear a vest, it would make headlines.
No, no.
Weird. I just thought, well, wear a vest top, but put a nice jacket over the top of it. Or even put a smart blouse, like a jacket over the top. The thing to work out is that you don't want people looking at you and thinking, oh, she looks scruffy, or oh, that's a bit fussy, or what is that? Is that a leopard? Is it a cat? On a
Because
brooch
it's
or a pattern. And
yeah.
they're not listening to you then, and they're not taking you seriously. I say keep it plain and simple, basically. Keep a
And
simple
and
jacket.
wear tailoring. Where's that jacket from that you're wearing today?
Oh, this is one of my favorite jackets, yes, because it's the right color and it's a Max Mara.
See, Max Mara. So you do get what you pay for. If you get
Well, I have to say it was in the sale.
right, right, but still,
But the other thing is, this is important, Lisa. This is the only jacket that I've ever bought online.
okay, and it
I
worked.
actually bought it. The Max Mara had a sale, and I looked at it. I thought, oh, that's my jacket. The way
I
you.
love that colour. It's for me.
Yes, that's me. And I just bought it online. I mean, obviously I could have sent it back if it didn't work, but usually I want to go to the shop and I want to try things on because you never know, do you? I'm sure you recommend that. You've got to know what things look like.
Yeah, yeah. It's better to go shopping in real life, but like you were just saying as well, tailoring on screen just looks a lot better. And we already said as a top tip, go for a block colour, avoid the tight little patterns.
Not too many frills, not frills,
Yeah.
and not too many scarves and pussycat bows and things because they can just clutter up your look.
Yeah, it does. And in an ideal world, of course, we should be able to wear whatever we want, whenever we want. But it's just not really playing the game. You have to sort of play the game because it's just the way, certain people perceive things differently. So it's kind of if you're in a position where you're up front, you're doing a TED talk or you're reading the news or whatever, it's better to just go for something that's a bit smarter so people listen to what you're saying.
As you say, they make the decision, and they look at you, and within a second they've gone, oh, okay, and they start listening. If they're still trying to work out what the pattern is, or why is that, what is that, or and if you wear a brooch, people can't tell what it is.
Yeah, I mean, different circumstances require different, outfits. I've just literally been watching a YouTube video of this guy who's teaching about how to 10x your income, right? So he's a multimillionaire from doing gym wear. Like he's started gyms, a chain. So he does wear a vest and
Yes, but that's, yes, exactly.
And a lumberjack shirt over the top. But it's perfectly, that's right. It just looks right. It's him, it's his personality, it's his identity. If he was reading the news wearing that, that would be different. It
Yeah,
wouldn't.
it wouldn't look right, would it? No, exactly. That's the point. No, no, it's perfectly possible. I mean, after all, if you're somebody who's being interviewed and you're at a building site or a waterworks or something, and you're wearing a high-vis jacket and over everything, people just will think that's fine, nothing wrong with that. And, it has to work, doesn't it? What and TV is very funny, because we do try and we do stereotyping because when we interview doctors at hospitals, sometimes we say to them, please put the stethoscope around your neck. Well, no, so because people then think, oh, doctor, because you're only on for a short time, so so we do that, but then there are the verb. It's all visual signals, you see.
It gives, I mean, they did that. There's a test that scientists did where they put half the class in a white coat and said that's an artist's smock, and then half the rest of the people in a white coat and said that's a doctor's coat, and then gave them all tests, and the people wearing the doctor's coats did better, like by a significant amount, because it's enclosed cognition. It's actually a thing. It puts you into a belief mindset. So I'm a doctor. And when other people think you're a doctor, they sort of instantly trust you and, all that kind of stuff. So it really is a thing, enclosed cognition and this
Really?
visual pattern. I
I
just,
mean,
I just
sorry,
want to ask you,
you asked me about my journey and things, and I did have advice from a lovely image consultant who taught me about wardrobe personality and things. And so she said to me, she said, you're in the right job because you have a classic personality.
yeah, yeah,
This is classic, and I do feel comfortable. Oh, and that's the other thing. Everyone's done it. You buy something and then you never wear it.
yeah,
I buy
100%.
something that's just too dramatic for me. I'm not dramatic in that sense, and I buy something and then sort of 6 months later and I take it out. No, I don't feel like it. And I don't know why I bought it. And I don't do that anymore, actually, because I've worked it out.
Because you're classic, and this is something that I do say is that it's the most important thing to find out. Yes, it's handy to find out what colours suit your skin tone. Are you cool or are you warm? That's handy information to know. But the most important thing to know is your style personality. So
Yeah.
now you're classic. So you can just stick to your tailoring. The guy that I was just watching, the gym guy, I don't think he's got a classic bone in his body. That's fine. He can just wear,
Well,
his
he'd be classified as sporty, wouldn't he? I mean, so
sporty, yeah, like maybe
yeah.
a bit preppy, something like that. But it's once you know that I'm not naturally classic, but as I'm getting older, I am appreciating tailoring more than I used to. Because I want to look smart now. I've got this feeling that I want to look smarter because my style has evolved. But I'm not naturally a classic dresser, if that makes sense. I've
Oh, I see what you
definitely
mean, yes. Well, it turned out that I was in the right job in that sense because I do like wearing I like wearing smart things and I don't mind wearing colours, but I don't want to wear anything vividly dramatic with big patterns or, massive scarves or
it's too much, it feels wrong. And it's getting to that style vibe is so important. And that's when you look more confident on screen and everything as well. When you're wearing something that really suits who you are.
Also, the other thing is do know your colours, as you say, because there are these sort of neon colours, the sort of vivid yellow sort of thing. If I wore anything that I can wear a pale yellow, but if I a buttery sort of pale yellow, but if I wore that, people would say to me, "You look ill."
It would be too much. Yeah.
Whereas this colour, and I've got some things in turquoise and pale blue, baby blue, and people go, "Oh, you're looking well. Have you had your hair done?" I mean, it just makes you look so much better, doesn't
It
it?
does, especially on screen. So it is well worth knowing. And your career has been so interesting. Like, you've done so many things. One of the things that you did was you covered the Enfield poltergeist. So it's a case about a poltergeist that they've just made a TV show about. And actually, weirdly, my neighbour produced the TV show, which is a strange coincidence. But, I mean, I love ghost stories. This is complete curveball, anyone listening, but it's something that Roz has done in her career. It's a very famous case. Look it up, the Enfield poltergeist, where two young girls were sort of thrown across the room and like speaking in strange voices and things were
All sorts of
moving.
weird things, objects moved,
For we
strange things happened.
Yeah.
Dozens of people. I mean, that's the point. Lots of people with literally no skin in the game, just neighbours and people, not just relatives, but neighbours and people walking past saw the most weird things. And I was sent to report on it when I was a radio reporter. And I mean, it's on Apple TV Plus. There's a whole series about it on Apple TV Plus,
Right.
which I'm interviewed in as well. Also, the BBC ran it this last Halloween. They ran the Paramount Plus series, which I'm also in.
It's very famous. It's a very famous case
Yeah,
because it was, I mean, they talked in like a sort of old man's voice as well, didn't they?
it was very odd. But of course, the thing is, I was doing it for radio. And actually, if you look on the BBC website, you can find there's a reunion program and my original documentary from ages ago. About the Enfield poltergeist, explaining what I saw. I didn't actually see any objects moved, but I talked to a lot of people that did, and I did hear the strange voices, and I did hear the banging on the walls, which is really odd. But the thing that I found really interesting was that when I looked it up, because I was sent and I did a news report, and then I thought, oh well, this might make a radio documentary. So then I went back and I now pitched it, and I did this radio documentary, which took me quite a long time to do. The thing that's interesting about it, there's much more literature about it now, but there wasn't so much sort of, 30 or 40 years ago. But the point is that poltergeist cases have occurred for centuries, and that it's like a syndrome that has similar things happen all the time. That's the point. You get people talking in strange voices, you get objects being thrown across the room, you get things being moved, you get piles of water appearing, sometimes they get little fires, you get levitation, you get people being pushed around. The thing is, there's loads and loads of poltergeist cases. I think there's even a case in Roman times that was reported, and there's certainly reported for the past 1,000 years. So that's the interesting thing about it. There's something weird going on here that we don't understand. That's really my position.
Yeah, it could be electromagnetic fields. It could be, echoes of the past. I mean, I don't know. Are you a believer or a skeptic, Roz? What's your?
Well, I'm not actually a believer or a skeptic. I'm just sitting on the fence in the sense
Yeah.
that I know that when people say to me, "Oh, well, it couldn't happen," I say, "Well, I was there, and I know something. I know there were lots of weird things going on. I don't know why, but I do know that this is things that happen." And as a historian, I found this really interesting. Happen centuries. People report similar things. Someone's in the kitchen, there's a teenager. It's usually teenagers and puberty it's around.
Yeah.
And there's something going on with their energy or something like that. We don't know. Plates start flying around, and this has just been going on for centuries. But the other interesting thing about it is that I've done all these interviews in the past 10 years because everyone wants to look back at it. Because the film Conjuring 3 is based
Yes.
on that as well.
Yes.
So I wouldn't say all of it entirely. And the people who made that film, they only went to Enfield once. People said to me, they've run out of material of the things they actually visited. So they decided to do a film featuring the Enfield thing. So it's a bit controversial from that point of view. But I mean, the thing is, it did mean that I had to take all my own advice and be interviewed by other journalists a lot about
Right.
to do about other things as well. And I actually got interviewed on this morning about the Enfield poltergeist.
Oh, I'm going to have to check that out. Now, listen, we cover everything on this podcast. Now we're covering poltergeists, but you've had such an interesting career. Thank you so much. I'm going to go and look that up. Do look up that story. It's really fascinating. I'm going to look up you on This Morning as well. And thank you so much for coming and joining me today. Where can people find you? And
I'm on Amazon, the Visual Revolution Guidebook. It's on Amazon, and it's packed with advice, as you know, Lisa, because you've read it, including your advice about how to do a podcast, advice on how to do presentations and interviews and make your own videos, and lots of useful stuff and lots of stories about all sorts of people.
And it's highly likely you're going to need to do this at some point in, if you're someone who works and, all of that kind of stuff, just to be a bit savvy about, looking professional on camera.
And I also put in something about how there's pros and cons. People say, "Oh, I want to be an influencer." Well, if you do, you've got to give your life to it, and you may not make any money. Not all influencers, some make lots of money, but not all influencers do. And it's no rules, and it's really difficult. So
it's fickle. It's definitely fickle. Right. So check out Roz's book, The Visual Revolution Guidebook. Thank you so much for coming back on the Style Stories podcast, Roz. Lovely to chat to you today.
Thank you, Lisa. Really enjoyed it.